Kris is the 5th generation to be born and raised on a family farm just outside of Fairfield. He earned an undergraduate degree in environmental science and sociology and a master's degree in regenerative organic agriculture. Kris has been practicing organic farming for the last 9 years. 7 of those have been managing the MUM Regenerative Organic Education Farm.
I grew up on a farm just outside of town, and I loved it. Driving tractors, harvesting corn, working the cows. Every second of it was heaven. My 3rd grade teacher finally convinced me that going to school was cool. I had to be convinced every day to go to school before the 3rd grade because I wanted to be on the farm every single day. But as I got older, I realized there was a wider world, and the world that I came from wasn't the only one that existed, and I went out and saw more. And as I pursued education, I realized that there were alternative ways to farm, and I studied those because people were doing it. There must be something to it. I wanted to learn more about it, and the more I learned, the more it was kind of a bittersweet experience. Because I started learning that many of the things I held so dear, that I grew up with, loving and caring and enjoying so much, may not have been the best way forward or the best way to farm. And this comes from a position where my family has a strong land stewardship ethic. Take care of the land that takes care of you. We were some of the first in our neighborhood to pursue no-till practices. My dad, I remember letting cows onto the croplands in the winter, so integrating animals before anyone was even really talking about it. It was doing these things didn't seem regenerative, they just seemed to make sense to us. And as I pursued education and organic education and learning other ways to farm, I learned that there was another way, in fact, to pursue these things. And moving more and more into the field I find myself squarely rooted in now, like I said, it was bittersweet, but also exhilarating because, as I learned it, there was only one way to farm: corn and beans, cattle and pigs, big tractors, big land. And there's a place for that kind of farming, but it's not the only way. And as I was a part of this farm, a part of starting it, a part of helping it grow and creating the space for others to learn and advance and grow, it showed me that there was a lot more to farming than planting seeds and driving tractors. There was a lot more to fertility and nutrients than throwing the right fertilizers on the ground. Being connected to, it sounds a little corny, but connecting to the community, connected to your soil, connected to your ecosystem. And I use that term ecosystem very loosely because we are in an ecosystem. On this stage, we're an ecosystem. This community is an ecosystem. The fact that we're together at a festival is a function of our ecosystem. The reality that became more and more obvious to me over time is that farming was so much bigger than farming. And to consider it to be just so simple as corn and beans, cattle and pigs was a disservice to the farmer, to the consumer, to the land. And learning these multiple ways, these new ways to farm, relearning how to farm, I also did find that there was a lot of connection from conventional, as I grew up, to a regenerative farming aspect. I expected to be well out of my depth when I started farming like this, but in a certain sense, building a fence is building a fence. If you can drive a tractor, you can do that doing a regenerative practice or a conventional practice. There are commonalities that make it not such a huge gap to go from a conventional mindset or a conventional practice to a more regenerative one. But what I really came to understand about my local community, and specifically my community of farmers in a conventional realm, is that no farmer is trying to do a bad job. There is no evil farmer. There's no farmer that wants to hurt an animal, that wants to poison the land. That doesn't really exist. With every group, there's a bad apple, sure. But by and large, every farmer wants to do the best they can for the people that depend on them, for their community. And what it really matters to most farmers is proving that it works. You know, before they can do something new, they need to see it. They need to know it. They need to understand it. You know, farmers want to see it. Show them it works, and they will try it. Prove to them that it works, and they'll give it a go. What it takes is our examples. It takes people brave enough to step into the community and say, here, I'm going to do something that looks weird, stupid, and may backfire in my face, but if it works, you all can copy me. That's fine. It's cool. We're actually going to make a better place together. And having that kind of community within the farming realm, within the farming community, but within the larger town community, all of you here, people that aren't here, you know, they're all included too. It matters. You know, what we do, what we eat, how we spend our dollars, you know, the choices we make every day add up to a collective choice by our community. So the transition from going from a conventional mindset, a conventional stance, to a regenerative one, like I said, was very long, but also very short, because the journey from unlearning to relearning, some people can't do that. Some people choose not to do it. Some people succeed quite well at it. But the reality is that we're all working at this together, and labeling us one or the other isn't as helpful as it might seem. Yeah, we're regenerative over here, they're conventional over there. It's empowering in one sense, but it doesn't help all of us together. So when we talk about conventional, when we talk about regenerative, it's a spectrum. It's not one or the other. It's we are working our way towards a common goal of feeding each other, caring for each other. And I think that's something that we need to remember as we get excited about regenerative agriculture. We're not leaving people behind. We need to bring us all together to make this work.